Into the Void. Besides being one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs, Into the Void is where we're all going. It took a literal mental breakdown for me to come to terms with that fact, but I did eventually come to terms with it, and I think the world would be a much better place if, minus the mental breakdown, everyone did the same. The idea of an afterlife has not only caused an immeasurable amount of mental torment throughout the ages, but it is also still causing irreparable damage to humanity and the earth itself. Our violent and self destructive nature aside, I believe that if everyone were to realize the finality of death and the void, we would be able to fix much of what is wrong with humanity and the planet. Firstly, it would add infinite value to this one demonstrable life that we have. An infinite afterlife cheapens this life infinitely. It makes this life akin to dirty rags, something to be cast off at the first chance. If people would realize that this is probably the only one we get, they wouldn't be so quick to throw it away. For examples of all this, all you have to do is look to modern countries with largely atheistic populations, like the Scandinavian countries or Japan. Crime there is rare because who wants to spend their one life in prison? I understand that that's not the only reason, but that is one reason. Murder is almost non existent because, besides the possibility of life in prison, taking away someone's life is the gravest of crimes because you're robbing them of their one life. Altruistic acts are very common because people realize that making this life as nice for as many people as possible is a moral obligation. So, without a belief in the afterlife, life is something worth more than all of the money in the world, not something cheaper than a pack of gum. Secondly, it would make us value our environment. Right now, we are destroying the earth faster than it can recover. At this rate, we won't last very long if we don't get rid of the belief that this isn't the final destination. The belief that we are destined for another plane of existence, like what it does with the value of life, infinitely cheapens our appreciation for this earth. Instead of being something to protect and preserve, it becomes just a place to wipe our dirty feet in preparation for the afterlife. So if we did away with the belief in the afterlife, we would be forced to take care of ourselves and our planet. Lastly, if murder is the most detestable of crimes, because it snuffs out a life forever, war is then the ultimate evil. War is murder on an industrial scale and has almost always had some sort of religious undertones. Presidents have always declared that God is on our side when declaring war. And there has never been a shortage of young men willing to lay down their lives for that statement. If we got rid of the belief in the afterlife, war would be the greatest of moral evils. It would always be detested and disdained and would only ever be a last resort for settling diplomatic disputes. However, having said all this, I do acknowledge that an atheistic society does not mean a utopia. We would still have to contend with the darker side of human nature. But without religion and a belief in the afterlife, there are two huge obstacles out of the way. Without religion or a belief in the afterlife, we can rely on science to give us the answers on how to best understand and respond to human nature. So, while a belief in the afterlife has given some people comfort, it has caused much more harm than it has eased and caused us to infinitely devalue life and our environment. I believe that getting rid of it would make us value this life and this planet more than theists realize. I know this because when I dropped religion like a sack of stones, my life and everyone and everything in it became more valuable than all the gold on earth, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So, until I walk into the clearing at the end of my path, I will fight religious nonsense and preach the gospel of the void.